Well, here we are again after a break of a day or two. I've spent quite a bit of time the last day or two recording a message for Sunday. It's only 10 minutes long, but it seems to take ages to do. But we're now back into Isaiah, and we're just going to Isaiah chapter 6, and we're going to look just at the first 7 verses. In fact, most of the focus will be just on reading these verses. It's a well-known chapter, but let me read them. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord high and exalted, seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him were seraphim, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they were flying. And they were calling to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty, and the whole earth is full of his glory. At the sound of their voices the doorposts and thresholds shook, and the temple was filled with smoke. Woe to me, I cried, I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live amongst a people of unclean lips. And my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty. Then one of the seraphim flew to me, with a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with tongs from the altar. With it he touched my mouth and said, See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away, and your sin atoned for. What a magnificent passage. And it starts the death of King Uzziah. He'd reigned for 52 years. He'd started off okay, but then quickly became proud, and to be perfectly honest, was no great loss to the nation. And here we have Isaiah having this great vision. Now remember, we've had the first 5 chapters, he's done some prophesying. And it's mostly been judgment, there's been hints of salvation. After this, we're going to start to move into the the real guts of the prophecy. And there are 3 things he needs, 3 things we need in order to be true, fully equipped servants of God. We need to know the glory of God. That means it needs to be number 1. God is God. He is the Lord Almighty, with all power and authority. We need to be aware of the world's sinfulness and our sinfulness. Any view of the world which ignores or belittles man's sin is a wrong view. But as well as being aware of our own sin, if we stopped there, if all we had was the glory of the Lord and our sinfulness, we would be like Isaiah in verse 5. Woe to me, I am undone. We also need to know our forgiveness. And this was shown to Isaiah with this burning coal. We are just a few days from Easter, for about 10 days or so. We need to focus on the cross and the forgiveness that God won for us on that cross. Let's just look at 1 or 2 more things. It says, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. There's the holiness of God, the separateness of God, the difference of God between God and the whole world. But then there's also the glory of God. And one of the Hebrew words for glory means weight, significance. And at the time, Assyria was rampaging around the place, crushing nations left, right and centre. The nation of Judah, of Israel and Judah, they were pathetic. They were in absolute rebellion against God. And you can despair in those situations. Today we certainly see lots of sin around the world. And we see presently the coronavirus closing down economies, closing down nations, killing people. But it is God who is in control. The earth is full of His glory. And He has forgiven us. If we repent and believe in Jesus, we are forgiven. We'll go on to the next part, maybe tomorrow or the day after. And this is going to be the commissioning of Isaiah. God had a great purpose for Isaiah. He's arguably the greatest prophet in the Old Testament. God had a special task for him. And God has a purpose for you and me in this day. And we need to know the glory and holiness of God. We need to be utterly aware of sin, the world's sin, our own sin. And we need to be utterly aware of the forgiveness that we have in Jesus. Amen.